Game Pass may have been a mistake. A man. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know the deal. If you're new to this channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I upload content almost daily, and I live stream here daily. Secondly, I will be live streaming tonight on this channel at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. I'll have the scheduled stream below in the description and top pin comment. And last but not least, I have an ASMR channel, and my next video is coming up this week, and it will be me talking about my history with Xbox, and it should be an interesting one. So I'll have a link to my ASMR channel below in the description as well, and top pin comment, and make sure to go check it out. So I think it's safe to say that 2025 has been the year of L's for Xbox. We could go into, there's been numerous price hikes for their consoles and some of their accessories. The price that Microsoft is asking for a Xbox Series S and X in 2025, when the consoles will be 5 years old coming up in a couple months, is insane. They're asking for $800 if you want to get the 2 terabyte Galaxy Edition Series X. Like, console prices are supposed to go down, especially towards the end of the console generation, not go up and make it where it's like, should I get this half a decade old hardware here, or should I get maybe a mid-range gaming PC? I don't know. No, do not get the Xbox. Run screaming. But then moving on from their ridiculous price hike of the consoles, now they're actually increasing the price of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate to, if you're in the States anyway, and in the UK, $30 a month. $30. And there's a reason that they're doing that. You want to know why? Now that Microsoft owns Activision Blizzard, there's a lot of people who are signed up to Game Pass who are just playing Call of Duty on Game Pass because it comes out on day one on Game Pass. Well, they lost a butt ton of revenue having Call of Duty on Game Pass, and that may be why they're increasing the prices of Xbox Game Pass to an obscene $30 a month for Ultimate. This comes from GameSpot.com. I'll read it to you, then we'll discuss. Call of Duty Black Ops 6, I know 7's coming out soon, but 6 was the best-selling game of the year in the United States for 2024, and it set a franchise record as well. However, the decision to make Black Ops 6 a day one launch title for Xbox Game Pass reportedly cost the Call of Duty franchise millions of dollars, and that probably made people at Microsoft's buttholes pucker, and they were like, wait a second, we need to make this money back somehow. I know, let's gouge a consumer for $10 more a month on a service that many of them are probably lukewarm on keeping. Make Game Pass more expensive. That'll solve the problem. According to Bloomberg, a former Microsoft employee disclosed that Call of Duty console and PC sales were $300 million lower in 2024 than they were in 2023. And to make you realize that this isn't just a conspiracy theory and maybe less people on Xbox were simply not interested in getting Black Ops 6. As previously disclosed, 82% of all Black Ops 6 sales came from PlayStation consoles. Completely. Like, that's including PC. That means only 18% of sales came from Xbox and PC for Black Ops 6. That is wild if you think about it. Continuing on here, one of the primary reasons Microsoft purchased COD developer Activision Blizzard was to get new exclusive titles for Game Pass and drive the growth of that subscription service. However, Bloomberg's report notes that Game Pass subscriber growth has slowed significantly since 2020, and Microsoft hasn't shared its subscriber numbers since it hit 34 million in February 2024. Now, in recent years, we've heard developers complaining that having their games on Game Pass cannibalizes sales, which makes sense because if someone's paying for a service, they're also not going to buy your game if that game is going to be on Game Pass. And if that person may have bought your game because they wanted it and they would have just bought it a la carte like people normally buy games, and they won't buy it because it's on Game Pass, that hurts the developer. And Microsoft even admitted this in a UK Competition and Markets Authority's provisional report. I literally tried to say that 16 times just remembering that title. It wasn't going to happen. It just wasn't. But this is an excerpt of what the report had to say. Microsoft also submitted that its internal analysis shows a redacted decline in game-based sales 12 months following their addition on Game Pass. And this report goes back to 2023. So there you go. Microsoft's admitting themselves they see that games being on Game Pass hurt developers and publishers. They don't make as much money. So this all ties into, again, that Microsoft really was too premature and too aggressive with trying to become the Netflix of gaming. They went out and bought, if you remember, they bought Bethesda. Activision Blizzard was the biggest acquisition in gaming history. And if you remember, throughout the 8th generation, how many studios was Microsoft buying? Team Ninja is the first one that comes to mind. There's a whole plethora of others. And I remember thinking to myself, I mean, yeah, okay, it's not great they're buying these companies and they're just going to keep their games on their platform, we thought at the time. But all right, at least for the 9th generation, they're going to come out swinging, right? They're going to have all these first-party games on the Series X and S, and how'd that one work out? Not that there hasn't been good games like the gems like Indiana Jones and Halo Infinite's okay. And even when they have good games, they're just bringing those good games to the PlayStation 5. And I'm sure we're going to see a bunch of games on the Nintendo Switch too as well. What the hell do you need to have the Xbox for? What do you need to have? And honestly, especially with the price increase, if you are on Ultimate, what the hell is the point of having Game Pass unless you are really, and you are enjoying a bunch of titles each month? Is it justifiable if you play a handful of games a year? If you play 3 or 4 games a year, is it worth it to have Xbox Game Pass Ultimate? Even if you're playing 6 or 7 games a year, is it worth it? Maybe if you're playing half a dozen and but even then you could have bought the same damn games, especially if they're not Xbox first-party titles or Microsoft first-party titles. Those games could come and go too. So what happens if there's a game that you had on Game Pass that you got 3/4 of the way through and you wanted to finish, but you didn't finish, but then it's no longer on Game Pass? Then what? It's not, especially at $30 a month, it's not justifiable. It is way too much money. And unless you're really going to sit there and play the crap out of Game Pass, it's tough to justify that price. And I think Microsoft going into this and how premature they were with the games as a service thing, they expected to just take over with these big acquisitions and become the Netflix of gaming. And then they realized that games are way more expensive. Developers need to make a lot more money. Publishers need to make a lot more money. And just having games be a la carte and for rent on a platform like Xbox Game Pass doesn't always work. Microsoft, you went in on all of this games as service stuff way too early. And this is why Xbox, I think, at this point is ruined. And let's keep it real. Ever since Microsoft's current CEO, Satya Nadella, took over, I remember there was a time that the Xbox division had to justify their existence to him. And I feel that Microsoft as a whole kind of looked at gaming as more of a nuisance. So I don't know. I feel like Microsoft is like, all right, yeah, or games as a service. Sure, we can get rid of this Xbox thing and it's like a fly on our shoulder. It's like a gnat. We need to just wipe it off. That's how I feel Microsoft since basically the beginning of the 8th generation, when they realized that the Xbox One was not going to do the numbers that they wanted / needed it to do. They just wanted gaming to go away. Maybe not Phil Spencer, maybe obviously not the Xbox division as a whole. But if you go between the layoffs and everything else going on, Microsoft doesn't want to deal with game consoles anymore, or the gaming division, at least in the same way they're dealing with it now. Well, we're dealing with it, I should say. It sucks because it's the end of an era, but Xbox is never going to be the same again. And all of this different information coming out and all these major changes that they're doing are just proof of it. This is Rich Tomorrow signing out. Have a good one. Ocean water. Ocean water. Ocean
Ocean water. Ocean water. Ocean water. Ocean water.
China!